Hello, everyone. So today we have a student from the University of California, San Diego. His name is John. And John, can you please go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, so I'm a currently a physics major, physics with specialization in computational physics at UC San Diego. Uh, I'll be minoring in computer science, and yeah.
All right, awesome. So yeah, just first and foremost, talking about your major, you mentioned physics, and then with a minor, computer science. Just curious, what made you choose that specific major minor track?
To be honest, my first choice major was actually computer science, but
Mm.
I wasn't accepted for that major, so my second choice was physics with computational physics. So I've been recently trying to apply to get back into computer science, but that hasn't really worked out that well. So I'm just going to stick with physics and minor in computer science instead.
All right, sounds good. I guess what kind of gave that interest. You mentioned computer science being the original focus. I guess where did your interest in the field of computer science come in from?
Well, for a start, my dad's been his job's working with computers. He's a database admin.
Mhm.
So there's that, and I've also been working with computers since pretty early on in elementary school, and I've been coding very early on. So I figured I'd carry that through, but just didn't work out.
Okay, I see. Well, at least it's great that you can still, pursue it as a minor on the side. I think it's good that at least you have that, you're passionate about it. And I know you mentioned obviously specifying into computational physics as a specialization. So I was wondering
Right.
if you could mention, what does that specialization kind of entail for you?
So the reason why I chose computational physics is I love physics. It's just something that comes naturally to me, but I still wanted to lean towards something with computation, computers. So computational physics sort of involves using algorithms and programming to help solve complex calculations in physics. So I thought that would be perfect. It involves both programming and physics.
Yeah, no, I really like how you mentioned that too, especially since you obviously stated that your original emphasis was in computer science. Given that, obviously when we applying to college, computer science didn't work out necessarily, but you then transitioned into that. So I was wondering if you could then follow up, kind of going back to UC San Diego, why you chose, UC San Diego as your attended school choice.
Well, first of all, I only applied to UCs, so my choices were already pretty limited. And then I got rejected from a few, so then it really narrowed down my options to really, let's see, Riverside, Santa Cruz, Irvine, and San Diego. And I really just chose San Diego because of their reputation for computer science, physics, and I really love the environment in San Diego. I've been down there a few times prior, so
Okay,
yeah.
makes sense. And then, you mentioned something that was pretty interesting. You said that you only applied to the UC schools, correct? Yeah, and then I was wondering, if you could mention like why specifically you only decided to apply to the UC system, which is obviously the public school system in California. So I guess if you could touch up on that.
Yeah, so I guess maybe I was a bit lazy. Um, I didn't really want to go into the effort to, apply at all the prestigious schools, Stanford, USC, all those. I guess I didn't really think it was the right fit. Academically, I don't think I'm the strongest. I think I have pretty good intuition, but when it comes to test taking and competing with other students, I'm really not up there. So I figured USC and Stanford and all those top schools would be pretty tough for me. And plus, moving out of state and applying to East Coast colleges also seemed like too much of a hassle, especially with the moving back and forth. So I figured UCs were a safe bet.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you too. For one part, even though you can admit that maybe it's a bit of laziness, I do agree. With the UC application, it's great because it's only one application you have to send for all the schools. So in terms of time management, it's not too big. And then because there's so many different schools, like you have like 9 options to choose from. Just applying to the UC system alone, you could like be satisfied with it. And especially going into the
Exactly.
STEM, like you mentioned, especially for your case, the UC system is known to be really strong in their STEM department. So it's not a bad choice, obviously, to go to those schools. I would say some of those schools actually do better than a lot of private schools. Like I would definitely choose San Diego over USC for science, in certain circumstances. So yeah, no,
Right.
I think that's definitely great to hear. would you say also, I mean, the fact that it's a public school and the tuition is cheaper is also a benefit of the UC system?
Oh yeah, definitely. My parents are paying for most of my college, so I really didn't want to put too much stress financially. So UCs were a great choice in that regard.
Mm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It's like almost like pretty much like one third of the cost of like what students at USC are
Yeah,
paying. So I would say, yeah, I mean, tuition is a huge, it becomes like a burden. It almost becomes the reason why a student will attend a specific school or not attend. So yeah, I
yeah.
definitely agree with you on all that stuff. So I guess temporarily, I just wanted to pause for one second, kind of like step back to roughly about a year or two ago when we were seniors in high school. So obviously applying to college and all that stuff. And obviously you mentioned that you only applied to the UC schools. Having said that, you still have to go through the entire process,
Mhm.
writing essays and whatnot. So I guess first and foremost, how would you describe how your overall college application process went for you?
Compared to what I've seen other people go through, I'd say it was pretty relaxed, especially with only the UC's one application. Uh, I didn't really ask much for outside help, so I was pretty much on my own. But that said, it was still pretty simple. Uh, there's only so much that can go wrong with the application. They tell you all the forms to fill in, you just follow the instructions. And for essays, I struggle a bit with writing, so essays are a bit more of a pain, but you get through it.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And obviously, I know, applying to just the UC schools, it means that you don't have to, ask for a letter of recommendations or you don't have to do
Right.
as many supplements. You just have like the four UC personal insight questions. So, do you think, you mentioned that overall, because of not having a lot of things to worry about, you had a lot more of a relaxed time. So, having said that, because you were given like a much more, I wouldn't say enjoyable college application experience, but like you said, simple and like relaxed. Um, how did you kind of spend that time? Were you just like balancing everything a lot more efficiently, like school, extracurriculars, and college apps, or were you able to do something else during that time period?
Yeah, so senior year was particularly hectic for me. I was involved in Cyber Patriot and we were doing competitions all the time and trainings all the time. So that freed up a lot of time for me. I didn't have to worry about college applications too much. I could focus on uh, Cyber Patriot training. I could also go cycling, just spend my weekends, have a bit more free time, just have fun.
That's awesome. And like you mentioned, having been applying to only the UC school systems, you didn't have the same kind of like pressures probably your peers did. I know probably some of your peers
Right.
were not only applying UC schools but other private, maybe even like the Cal State system. So, how would you say how would you compare your kind of like experience to theirs? Like just not really just like maybe mental health per se, but like just a workload and like being able to manage everything. How would you say yours compared in respect to them?
Oh yeah, I think it was significantly easier for me. I could see them every day, just constantly worrying about I got to finish this essay by this weekend. I got to get this letter of rec, and especially some people. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with QuestBridge.
Mhm.
Working through QuestBridge, they have really tight deadlines, and they have to constantly be finishing essays. So it was much easier for me.
Yeah, no, and then, I'm just curious because, like we mentioned, the UC system only having four essays, which is actually like so like pretty little compared to like other schools. That like some schools will have four essays just for one college alone. Um, I'm just curious, just on my end, how long did it take you to finish the four personal insights that the UC system had?
Oh, I took my sweet time with those four essays. Uh, man, I started at the end of junior year, I think,
Mm.
and all the way up to I think a month before applications are due. So yeah, I spent all that time.
So you really like took the time and liberty to.
Yeah, writing is really not my strong point, so I really wanted to perfect those essays as much as I
Mm.
could.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously that you didn't really ask for much outside help. So in terms of like proofreading the essay or anything, did you ask any friends or did you just kind of work on it on your own, knowing that?
I worked.
Yeah.
I think I worked, if I remember correctly, entirely on my own.
Mm.
I'm. I was kind of embarrassed about my writing, and I didn't really want others to see it, so I just kept it to myself.
Okay, I definitely, I see that. I think a lot of times too, we tend to like pour out kind of our stories onto them too. It's maybe
Right.
something that our friends aren't too familiar with. So I mean, yeah, I can see that as well too. I definitely know. Probably like my comment, that personal statement. I didn't really share that as much too, but yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I guess it's probably second to last question for the comment college application part. Um, would you say you have any regrets not applying to private schools or outside of UC schools, or are you pretty content with what you did?
I guess I would have liked to, if I had the time, maybe apply to a few private schools just to see if I could get in. Not really because I would go, I
Mhm.
probably wouldn't, just to experience some more college applications.
No, I know.
That's not really something most people want, but
Mm.
the
No,
more
I
you know.
definitely, yeah, for sure. I think college application is kind of like it's a life experience, or like that milestone you have to get through.
Yeah,
So I can definitely see why it would look back. Yeah, and I would say probably one more thing, just to recap the college application part. If you could go back, obviously none of us would want to go back, but if you could go back and then kind of redo the entire process, is there anything you would have changed or done differently?
well, one thing that I think might have really hindered my acceptances was the fact that my some of my biggest achievements happened right after I submitted my applications. So
Oh,
those never made it on. Like going to nationals for Cyber Patriot happened right after applications. So a lot of those things I wish I could have, started a year earlier, put that on the put that on the resume.
yeah, I see. Yeah, and I definitely agree with that too. It's kind of weird because you do so many things in high school that kind of lead up to senior year, but then senior year is
Right.
like that key point where you like go off on like all your organizations and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I definitely can see that too, where you'll end up being successful, but like once applications are done, so it's kind of hard to do all the success when you're still like kind of growing and developing early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, no, that was great to hear. It's really interesting, obviously, since you only had the UC schools, how you kind of approach the system. So I appreciate that. Yeah, so I guess transitioning back to UC San Diego, I guess talking a little bit more about what you're doing and stuff like that. So I guess obviously you mentioned you're interested in programming in high school and you did cycling. So I guess what are some other extracurriculars I guess right now that you're currently partaking in at UC San Diego?
So for extracurriculars, I'm on the UC San Diego Cycling Team, and apart from that, I think that's actually it. I had really great plans at the start of the year to join all sorts of clubs, but you know, first year is a bit hectic and I wasn't able to really be involved in all of them. So I decided to just focus on my classes for now and cycling, which is itself very time consuming.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're actually probably the first student athlete or like someone who's doing athletics that we're actually talking to. So I was wondering if you could expand on your experiences with balancing cycling and school, and kind of how that works.
Yeah, it can be a challenge sometimes, especially since cycling is such a time consuming sport. You got to spend hours on the bike all the time. You don't really have weekends. You'll probably be out from 6 in the morning until maybe 4 in the afternoon training on weekends. So a lot of that time where all of my friends are out going to restaurants, having fun. I'll be on the bike training. Same thing for weekdays. I'll probably get up really early in some mornings to go training, and then get to class. So there's a lot less time for homework, and there's also a lot less time for just social interaction.
I mean, does it like kind of upset you that you don't get that social interaction, or are you finding a way to make it work?
Uh, you know, I made I'm I've gotten pretty close with my cycling teammates, which is great. But I still wish I could have some more time with my friends, roommates.
Mhm.
So I'm still trying to find that balance between training and having more time with my friends.
Yeah, I know. I definitely feel. I would assume like a lot of student athletes, like you mentioned, are the ones at least I know at USC. They're always waking up early, going to practice, and then I'll see them in
Yeah,
class like already like sweating and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
yeah, I can definitely see how it would be a challenge. So just curious, obviously a lot of schools in terms of athletic programs, the way that they recruit players is different. Some people they have like you can do walk-in tryouts, or there's like a tryout date, or they'll actually recruit you straight from high school. So, what was the process of you getting onboarded onto the cycling team?
So this is where things get a bit weird. I'm not okay. I wouldn't say I'm exactly a student athlete in this regard because this is a what do you call it? It's a UCSD recreational team. So it's basically free for anyone to join. So there really wasn't much of a process besides like a few baseline tests.
Okay, that's awesome. And being a recreational team, obviously you mentioned cycling. There's like it's like competitive cycling. So do you guys enter into certain competitions or certain events or anything of the sorts?
Yeah, we're involved in the Western Collegiate Cycling Conference. So we race all up and down the state. That was cut short this year, but yeah, we got races in San Diego, UCLA, USC, UC Davis, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely understand how kind of this process is a little bit different. It's not like the traditional, like football or like basketball, how they kind of recruit people. I assume, especially cycling, is not
Yeah,
probably as well known. I would assume that there's no actual recruitment process.
yeah,
It's kind of like you said collegiate sports, but it's great. But it's good to see that you can still compete against like other schools, like in the Western area
mhm.
and whatnot. I know it kind of sports are kind of lackluster at UCSD because there's no football team or anything of the
Yeah,
sort these days. So yeah, make do with what you can. So I guess another thing I wanted to talk about, you know, transitioning now to another point, is with the UC schools, there's a lot of stereotypes that are associated with them. I think we'll probably
yeah.
talk about. I'll probably ask you about two of them. So the first question I have for you, and I ask this to every UCSD kid I talk to. So first off, is UCSD really the University of California Science Department?
Oh, I thought you were gonna go for socially dead first.
I was gonna follow up
Uh,
on that one too, but I wanted to follow up with science department just to kind of ease into
science
it.
department. Yeah, definitely science department. UCSD is like top-notch science. All the buildings you see are science buildings, all or at least all the fancy buildings.
Mhm.
And then you see some of the maybe older buildings are left for social sciences.
Yeah, and I know obviously the science department is also obviously like known to be really good at San Diego. I mean, hence why that kind of nickname came
Yeah.
up. But in regards to that, would you say that the classes are any particularly like extra challenging, or are they just like have solid professors and just solid like research institutions and whatnot?
Um, I think it's a mix of both. I haven't personally attended too many science courses yet. I'm only a first year.
Mhm.
But from my experience in physics, it does get pretty challenging, and we do have some, in my opinion, pretty great physics professors. But I also know that UCSD pours tons of money into research, so I know our research is also pretty top notch.
All right. Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I mean, especially for those that are really interested in kind of that field, I think it's a really great option. Especially if you're in California too, you might as well because of the tuition
Yeah.
and whatnot. So yeah, I guess let's follow up on the more common known nickname that you're familiar with, socially dead.
Yeah.
Is UCSD really socially dead?
Oh man, I don't know. I want to say no, but I don't. I personally don't go out of my dorm too much, so I might fit into that stereotype a bit. But I think if you try and go out and meet people, it's just as easy as on any other campus. I guess the association here would be UC science departments, so everyone does science, so they're all busy in their labs and they don't go out and socialize. But I think if you want to go out and meet people, it's definitely possible at UCSD.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Oh, and I guess another thing, with San Diego is because, obviously San Diego located really close to La Jolla, close to the beach.
Mhm.
How often do people, at least, I know obviously you're busy, so your weekend's probably not the most ideal to like go out, but do people oftenly go out to like the beaches and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so. The beach is, I guess, a 10-15 minute walk away from campus. So people are going all the time, constantly surfing, and we got Convoy, which is just a bit south of us. So people are constantly going there, shopping. So yeah,
Nice, awesome.
socially is okay, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I would assume, I mean, if you're close to the beach, you might as well take advantage of it, especially if you live
Yeah.
in the city life. Yeah. Okay, yes. No, that's great. I guess, just kind of wrap up this entire video, I was just wondering, if you could give advice to a high school student, whether that be about like college application process, the college lifestyle, or just like kind of like life advice in general, what would you tell them?
Uh, Kind of the opposite of what most high school teachers will tell you
Mhm.
is that college is not really that different from high school. At least in my experience, the people's I don't think people should be expecting that much change in terms of workload, scheduling. I guess schedule is a bit different because you can make it yourself, but workload is honestly pretty similar to high school. At
Mhm.
least if you're, I don't, one of those people who put in lots of effort in high school, I think they'll find it pretty similar, and it's not something to be too worried about.
Mm. I think that's yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. I know a lot of people I talk to will say like, oh, college is so it's like a whole new world versus high
Yeah,
school. I think it's definitely an interesting approach that you're saying that it is pretty similar. And to some extent, yeah, I can see that too. Workload wise, it definitely is similar, and like joining extracurriculars or whatnot, probably not the biggest change in the world. I just think probably maybe the adulting, like the fact that you have to be an adult now, actually take care of yourself, and
right. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and your schedule is based on your own time. So it's like I guess just being more independent. I guess having to yeah, like and like being independent, having that liberty kind of is what makes it different. But otherwise, for
yeah.
the
It's
most part,
like a independent high school, I guess.
yeah, otherwise, yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying. Not like looking back on it, I think that's a like saying independent high school. I think that's a good way to rephrase it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously, no, this was really great, and it was also obviously really nice talking to you, John. We definitely
Yeah,
appreciate you reaching out for us, and obviously for everyone watching your video, we hope that they got a lot of information from it. So yeah, I mean, other than that, thank you so much.
yeah, of course.